Lesson 7-2, equivalent fractions. So today we're going to talk about equivalent fractions, and equivalent means equal. So fractions that are equal. So it says these fraction strips show equivalent fractions. So if you kind of use this, you can kind of see what's equivalent. So for instance, 1/3 and 2/6 are equivalent. 1/3 is equivalent to 3/9, but 2/6 is also equivalent to 3/9. So if they line up, then they're equivalent. So if we had 4/6, so I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. What all is that equivalent to? Well, it's equivalent to 2/3. It's equivalent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/9. And then let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8/12. Is it equivalent to this one whole? Nope, not quite. We need 2 more 6s for that. So let's kind of look at these comparisons here. What happened when we went from 6 to 3? We divided by 2. What happens when you go from 4 to 2? You divide by 2. With fractions, whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. Always. This is key here. No matter what we're doing in fractions, if you do something to the top, you have to do it to the bottom. It's the only way to keep it correct. So again, what did we do when we went from 6 to 9? Well, this time we're getting bigger, so we didn't divide. Did we multiply by something? What did we do to get from 6 to 9? Remember, we're going to not add or subtract. We really want to work on multiplying and dividing. So what could we have done here to go from 6 to 9? Well, if we look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we do have 6/9, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 6s. So 1/6 is not equal to 1/9, but 2 6s are equal to 1/3. So 3/9 is equivalent to 2 6s, which is why this is such a different jump here. Really what you're looking at is almost going from that 2/3 because it goes so evenly with each section. So because it doesn't go evenly, it's harder to see that jump there. Here you can see that jump with timesing by 2 and timesing by 2. So how do we know that these are equivalent also? Because they're also equivalent to 2/3. And we know that because you could times this by 3 and times this by 3, and then we proved that 2/3 is equivalent to 4 6s there. So you have to kind of look both directions, forward and backwards. So we're going to do some practice of it, and it'll get easier. And this is why it's so important that we understand the prime and composite numbers to see if you are able to make your answer simpler. So it says fractions that have different numerators and denominators, but have the same amount are called equivalent fractions. So one way you can multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same non-zero number, which means we just don't use zeros. Okay? So again, if we have 10/15, even though that's not on our chart, you can still figure it out. If you multiply both sides by 2, you get 20/30. But you could also do the opposite. You could divide. So we could multiply both or divide both by the same non-zero number, which just means we never use 0 and we don't use 1, anything greater than 1, which again is why it's important to know if you can simplify it. So here they took 10/15 and divided both sides by 5 to get 2/3, because now 10/15 and 2/3 are equivalent, just like 10/15 and 20/30 are equivalent. Well, if these two numbers are equivalent and these two numbers are equivalent, then it stands that these two numbers are equivalent. So let's look at that. Equals 2/3. What did we do to get from here to here? We divided by 10. What did we do to here? We also divided by 10. Because we did the same, they are equivalent. Now, when we're looking at simplifying numbers, and we get from 20/30 to 2/3, 2 is a prime number because it can only be made into 2 in itself. And 3 is a prime number because it's only can be done with 1 and 3. So 1 in itself. So therefore, this is the most simple form. And that's important to remember as we do fractions, is it the most simple form? So let's do some practice. So they're going to go ahead and start us off here. So it says we can do 2 times 2, which is 4, 4 times 2, which is 8. So 2/4 is the same as 4/8. We can also divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Was 4/8 also a half? Yeah, it's also a half because 4 is half of 8. So that's, therefore, all of these are equivalent. Okay, so I want you to try number 2. I want you to give me 2 numbers. Go ahead and pause the video and give me 2 numbers. When you got them, push play again, and then you can see my answers. So you should be back from pushing pause, and you should have your 2 answers. So let's go over my 2 answers. I said you could take 6/10 and you could divide it by 2 and divide it by 2, and that would give me 3/5. I also said you could take 6/10 and you could times it by 2 and times it by 2 and get 12/20. You could have done other numbers as long as you did the same to the top and the bottom. I like to stick with some of the more simpler ones just to make my life a little bit easier. All right, let's try number 3. Pause the video here, you try, then press play when you're ready to see my answers. All right, welcome back. You should be pressing play because you already have your 2 written down. So let's see if you picked the 2 that I picked. Again, you might have picked something different, and that's okay as long as you did the same to the top and the bottom. So here I'm going to times by 2, times by 2. That gives me 8/18. But I could also I could do 4/9 times 3, and I could times it by 3. The reason that I don't want to divide is because the only things that I can divide 4 by, because 4 would be 1, 2, and 4. I can't do the same for 9. 9 is 1, 3, and 9. Those are the factors. And because they don't have anything in common, I can't divide, but I can multiply it by anything that I want. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 9 times 3 is 27. So therefore, these are equivalent, and we were not able to divide on this problem. All right, let's do one more. Go ahead and try 4. Pause, try it on your own. Welcome back. Let's see if you get the same one as me. Now this time, because I have such big numbers and because they're even, I am going to do some division. I'm going to start by first dividing by 2. And that gives me 12/24. Well, when I'm looking at this, I know I can do 6 for both. So I'm going to now divide by 6. And that gives me 2/4. And you know what? Just for interest's sake, because I know 2 and 4, 2 is half of 4. If I divide both sides by 2, I also get 1/2. So in this case, I actually got 3 numbers that are all equivalent. So you can continue to work down until you get to the simplest form.